As a senior in high school, the most common question I get asked is, what are your plans for next year? These past 4 years have been dedicated to searching for schools, deciding on a future career, and taking classes in preparation for college. But a question students rarely get asked is, what are you doing right now? As an aspiring NICU doctor, it was easy for me to set goals for 8 years from now when my career finally started. Setting goals I could achieve while still in high school, however, proved to be much more challenging. I remember sitting in the middle school cafeteria when I received a text asking if I had heard the bad news. My heart dropped to my stomach when I learned that my Aunt Carrie had gone into labor 3 months early. Connor, my cousin, weighed 3 pounds when he was born and had to fight to survive every single day. I had never even heard the term preemie before, but at the age of 14, I was able to hold a 3-pound newborn in my arms. I only truly interacted with him through the transparent walls of the incubator, but seeing that tiny life inside fighting to exist, fighting to escape, has been the most significant on my own. I remember longing for the day when my family and I could happily reminisce about just how tiny he used to be. The baby I held in my arms, however, was not ready to be a part of our world. His body was covered head to toe in blankets because he could not regulate temperature. His oxygen had to be constantly monitored because he had a tendency to stop breathing. And tubes and wires overtook his body because he was not ready to be alive without a machine. Connor survived for 259 days, most of them spent in an incubator next to other sick newborns. As I placed the white rose on his grave, I longed to keep his memory alive to commemorate the life he never had the privilege of experiencing. I began to see the number 259 everywhere. The answer to a math problem, the time I got home from school, the price of my Dunkin' coffee, and was grateful for the small reminders of my cousin. These recurring symbols led to my devotion to help other babies in memory of Connor. I started Project 259. It began as an English class project for Mr. Sawyer, where we were required to envision a goal and then achieve it, treating it as my personal Everest. Shortly after Connor's funeral, I decided to participate in the March of Dimes Walk for Preemies, where I walked alongside preemie survivors, parents, and siblings. I even met a NICU graduate named Connor. As I crossed the finish line with Connor's name on my back, I thought I had successfully completed my Everest. But it turned out to be more of a knoll at the foot of a mountain range, as my urge to help babies did not cease. As a timid 15-year-old, I had hoped to continue my project just by signing up for a hospital program and make a difference just by showing up. Every program I applied to, however, was either too far away, conflicted with my school and sports schedule, or had strict age requirements. I exhausted myself researching ways to get involved, but I always arrived at a dead end. Eventually, I began to devise my own opportunities by creating my own fundraisers, obtaining connections at hospitals, and contacting people who normally would have intimidated me. I customized and sold bracelets to raise money for the Boston Children's Hospital NICU, and pledged to swim 259 laps to raise funds for the Department of Sudden Unexpected Death. I also collaborated with the local elementary school and collected over 300 books for their Reach Out and Read program, and used an Amazon wish list to collect gifts for Mother's Day. I also spent hours creating handmade teddy bears and cards to send to local pediatric units. Not only did Connor inspire me to help other babies, but he also sparked my interest in newborn medicine. I remember watching the nurses care for babies like these, and I really wanted to learn how the incubators worked, what kind of nutrients these babies need, and what each tube and wire connected to their body did. At the age of 14, on the way home from my first hospital visit, I decided what I wanted to study in college: neonatology. As I prepared for a career in healthcare, I recognized that it was not just about the medicine, but about caring for each patient and family individually. I recognized that everyone had special circumstances. For example, my Aunt Carrie could not make it into the NICU every day because she had 5 other kids at home, all under the age of 8, that she had to care for. I was eager to take classes about neonatology, but I decided that I just couldn't wait until college to start learning. Working with Dr. Nuremberg as a mentor, I created my own independent project where I could study injustices that affect newborns. I started by studying neonatal abstinence syndrome, which is when a baby is born addicted to drugs because of their parents' substance abuse. I also researched sudden infant death syndrome, poverty, and parents born in prison, and the effects that they have on newborns. For each topic, I researched it extensively, created a presentation to spread awareness, and tried to do one deed of activism to help each cause. Starting Project 259 exposed characteristic traits about myself that I had never previously been aware of. Previously, I had never had a passion that could engage me for hours. While working on my fundraisers, I made myself completely vulnerable to failure, something that had been assiduously avoided by myself and others up until that point. There were days when I received 3 rejection letters, days when I was the only donor to my fundraiser, days when I truly had to contemplate defeat. But the unexpected support I received from my community is something I'll always be grateful for. For example, I realized the power of positive media attention when a local newspaper ran an article about my Swim for SIDS fundraiser, which greatly increased awareness and funds. All the hardships became worth it when I did a check presentation at Boston Children's, doubling my initial monetary goal, and a doctor from their program of sudden unexpected death reached out to me to let me know he was proud of my accomplishments. One spring day, I was visiting the hospital to drop off gifts for Mother's Day: baby books, scrapbooks, and blankets. As I was speaking to the Child Life Program Director, a NICU mother interrupted us to voice her appreciation for the director's work. Her little boy was still covered in tubes and wires, but he was finally learning how to walk. When he looked up to me and smiled, I realized that I do indeed have one true goal, my Everest, to help other babies survive the fight that Connor lost. Thank you.